Blog Talk Radio.
Everybody, and welcome to the Women of Golf. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, and right alongside here, of course, each and every week is my partner and LPGA professional, Cindy Miller. Good morning, Cindy. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing very well. A quick apology last week. It was my fault. I had a little brain fart, if you will. I forgot to turn my mic on, and we ended up starting up here with some dead air, and I forgot to bring Cindy on. So I apologize for those of you that tuned into last week's show and wondered why there wasn't any noise coming out for the first minute or two of the show. So my apologies. That was my fault. Anyways, we're here live every Tuesday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on blogtalkradio.com. Easiest way to find us, of course, is go to blogtalkradio.com. Up in the search key, type in Women of Golf, and that will bring you to the main page. And whatever show is currently playing will always be at the top. But if you scroll down, if you've missed any of the previously aired shows, scroll down to the on-demand section, and you can listen to any of the other shows that have been on previously. They are all auto-recorded. They are live, of course, during the Tuesday morning 9 to 10 time slot, but they are auto-recorded. So if you happen to not be able to join us at that time and want to go in and listen to it anyways later at your leisure, just go to that link and you can catch any of the shows that you might have missed in the on-demand section. So make sure you do that. We really would love your support. Also available for download through iTunes. Go to itunes.com in the podcast section. Again, type Women of Golf. And again, you can go through any of the shows that you might have missed there. If you want to speak to either Cindy or I or any of the guests during the live broadcast, you can do so by calling area code 347-945-5855, or you can email questions or comments to womenofgolf@gmail.com. And if you're interested in coming on the show, if you're somebody in the golf business and you feel that you have something you'd like to share with the audience, reach out to Cindy at cindy@cindymillergolf.com, and she will certainly do her very best to fit you into the schedule. And if you want to just reach out to me personally and say hello, you can do so at my email address, ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. We've got a great show for you this morning. Coming up here in just a few minutes, Jessica Wallace from the Symetra Tour, a Canadian, finished runner-up in this past weekend's Four Winds Invitational up in South Bend, Indiana. We're going to talk to her. And a little bit later in the broadcast, Jim Hackenberg, PGA professional, and as well as the owner and developer of Orange Whip Products and Jimmy Hack Golf LLCs. He's going to be joining us here in about a half an hour or so. So make sure you stick around. Cindy, very exciting weekend. Lots of golf going on, and of course the 115 U.S. Open. What an odd Open this year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Just different.
You know, I gotta first say, and I gotta concur with a lot of some of the feedback. Let's talk about the course very quickly here first. I don't mind link style courses. I don't think it was in the shape it should have been for a U.S. Open. Some of the criticisms that came out, Gary Player was very, very critical of the course, but some of the feedback was, a lot of the grass was multicolored, very difficult, especially on the greens, very difficult to read. And as you said off air, some of the comments came out was like putting on broccoli. Very bumpy greens, very difficult, and ultimately we managed to get a winner, and we'll talk about him in just a second. But just not a great, in my opinion, not a great format for this year's Open.
No. Well, you know what? The USGA loves to test. That's what it is. It's a test. So if you're not ready for the test, don't try to play in the Open. I mean, it's almost 4 days of mental, emotional, and physical tests. And that's what their mission is, and they accomplished it. So for those who can persevere through all of the whining and moaning and groaning, I mean, yes, it was hard, but everybody got to play it, and they finished on the par. So it just goes to show how good these guys are.
Yeah. I think...
You know, that's my... Yeah, it probably wasn't a great venue, but does the Open care or the USGA care? No, they don't care.
No.
So that's all part of the test.
Yeah. I think, though, what was really surprising to a lot of people is, given that next month, of course, we got the British Open coming up, it was just kind of surprising that they chose a venue that is a link-style course, which is not traditionally what you would see at a U.S. Open. So a lot of people were surprised at that, but we're optimistic and kind of excited in a way that, hey, like you said, it's going to be different. The USGA and those that set up for the Open are trying something, a little out of the box and that. But it was certainly an interesting looking course and some great looking holes. I just think that there were some things that maybe didn't get put into place as well as it should have, and a lot of people were very unhappy with that. But again, as you said, a lot of people shot under par, so it could have been that bad, right?
Well, and what did Oosthuizen shoot? 66?
Yeah.
36 of the last 7 holes or something. It's like, so again, for all the whining, yes, it was difficult, but you know what? It made it fun. I believe that part of the difference, too, was having Fox Sports cover it.
Yeah.
And I don't believe, this was the first of their, debut. I don't think they did a great job, but it wasn't horrible.
Right.
I do believe that NBC and the Golf Channel are way better. But
sure.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree, but I think though you've got to give Fox Sports a little bit of credit. I mean, this is their first bite at the apple, so to speak. So I'm sure as time goes on with other events, they're going to sort of warm in and get into their flow, if you will. And if you look back to some of the earlier broadcasts of even the Golf Channel and NBC Sports, they weren't as polished, I think, in the beginning either. So I think that in time, it'll be interesting to see. If it continues like it was this past weekend, there was some things that I just didn't really adhere to. But again, I give them credit that this is the first event. It's a U.S. Open, to add to the pressure. So it's a big event. But let's talk about real quick. We still got a couple of minutes left. Certainly a great accomplishment for young Jordan Spieth. Here he is, just young, early 20s, comes out with a great charge earlier in the year in April, wins the Masters tournament, and now comes in and clinches and wins the U.S. Open.
Absolutely. I mean, again, and I could see how nervous he was.
Yeah.
Could you tell? I mean, he was fidgety. He almost started to act like Keegan Bradley a little bit. So he was, I just thought he was very, very, very nervous, and which is great. Well, I mean, again, and he bailed out right again on 17, and then he recovered and made great birdie on 18.
And that's the interesting thing. Yeah, that's the interesting thing about him. In the Masters, I remember there was a point. I think it was in. I'm not sure if it was Saturday's round. I think it was Saturday's round, where he stumbled a little bit on a couple of holes, and a lot of people thought, okay, here's the opening for somebody else to make a charge. But he rebounded very, very well. So he's, he certainly is going to stumble like any player. But the one thing I will give him credit, especially for somebody as young as he is, he's showing some nerves. I mean, who wouldn't be at that age, and especially in an event that big and that important? But he always seems to manage, even if he as you said, bailed out in 17, manages to bring it back and
absolutely,
and gets back on track. Yeah, and that's
the point.
Right, exactly. That's exactly the point. They've got to be able to do that. I mean, everybody's going to stuff with the best players in the world. Nicholas, Woods, I'm sure Kathy Whitworth did in her day. Rosie, all of the great players that have come along, and past and present, all have moments where they stumble. But it's the ones that are able to navigate back on track that are the ones that are going to be successful. And obviously, Jordan did that this weekend.
He sure did. He's awesome.
On a down note, unfortunately, not a good finish for Dustin Johnson. Just not. I don't know what happened, but other than to say that he blew it.
The mistake was the first putt.
Yeah, and
you just don't knock it that far by. But again, I'm not going to sit here and judge because I'm not sitting in his shoes. But yeah, it was for him to hit those two amazing shots up on the green, and then to let it just waste away. It's sad. It's very sad. He shouldn't have gunned the first one by. And my son said, "Well, Mom, you have no idea how hard and fast those greens are." So again, it's just a mistake at the wrong time, at the wrong place, that hopefully doesn't haunt him forever.
Yeah, and this is what I was saying off air. I hope that this is not, because he did back in, I think it was the 2010 PGA Championship in similar fashion. He was in a bunker, and I don't recall the exact outcome of that, but ultimately he ended up losing the tournament. And I just hope that this is not going to be a pattern for him. And also, I mean, he's certainly going to lose tournaments. I mean, he's not going to win them all, but I hope that this is not going to play on his psyche, because this is one of the things. This is really what happened to Greg Norman. He had that with the Masters, not once but twice, and then I think it was I'm not sure if it was the U.S. Open, one of the other majors, that he had that, and it sort of ate into his psyche to the point where every time he would get in contention come Sunday, and you would think, okay, Greg's, you're going to win here, and then all of a sudden it just, all hell broke loose, and I just hope this is not going to be the case for Dustin.
I don't believe it will be. I think what he needs to be is just a little more mindful of the situation he's in. That's about it. I think he'll be fine. He's got great people around him with, Gretzky and Butch Harmon, and I mean, he's got great mentors. He's going to be fine. It just shows how much talent the guy's got.
Yeah, he does have a phenomenal amount of talent. It really boils down to the mental side of the game. I mean, these guys are all physically, they've got, they're in great shape. They've got a phenomenal talent. It's just a matter of who mentally is going to have that toughness, especially when it comes Sunday in a major like that. But very interesting tournament, some positives and, of course, some negatives along the way, depending on your perspective, I guess. But it certainly was interesting. I agree with you, Cindy. I think the USGA certainly accomplished what they set out to do, and that was to make it a true test and make it different and present some challenges, and they certainly did that. And you know what? I don't think there's been an Open or a major championship, with the exception of maybe Augusta, that really there hasn't been some grumbling or complaining along the way. So, that's, I guess, as they say, no pun intended, par for the course, right?
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, listen, we got Jessica Wallace in the wings here waiting to come on. So let me just do a quick introduction, and then we'll bring her on. Of course, Jessica Wallace is a Symetra Tour player, and she was runner-up for this past weekend's 2015 Four Winds Invitational that was held at Blackthorn Golf Club up in South Bend, Indiana. As I said, she was the runner-up with a total score over 54 holes of 209, 7 under par, behind winner and fellow Canadian Brooke Henderson, who shot 206 or 10 under par to win the tournament. Jessica's played since the age of 3. It's from Vancouver, BC. And when she's not on the course, you can find her watching hockey, specifically the Vancouver Canucks, and we're going to talk to her a little bit about that as well. Being a fellow Canadian, I've got some rivalry here. Being a Maple Leaf fan, we'll talk about that. But had a great career so far. Many top 10 finishes. In 2004, her best finish, of course, was tied second at the Garden City Charity Classic. Made 7 cuts of 15 events played in 2013. And out of 8 events in 2012, she made 3 cuts, with best finish being tied 17 at the Credit Union Challenge in Albany, New York. She's a 2-time BC Junior Girls Champion, winner of the GA Thunderbird International, and 2-time first-team West Coast Conference selection while playing for Pepperdine University, and then she transferred to University of Colorado and won the CU Heather Farr while playing for the Buffaloes, and named 2011 Big 12 Newcomer of the Year and 4-time NGCA All-American Scholar in 2009 to 2011. And with that, let's welcome Jessica Wallace.
Good morning.
Hi.
Good morning,
How are
Jessica.
you?
I hope we're doing very well. We're hopefully I got everything out correctly, and I apologize if I didn't. First and foremost, Jessica, I'm a fellow Canadian, so welcome to the Canadian show, or half Canadian show, anyways.
I love it. Sounds great to me.
Now, before we get started, let me say I am a Maple Leaf fan, so I hope you won't hold that against me. I know you're a Vancouver Canuck, but we'll try not to. Go ahead.
My condolences.
Yeah, I know, really. Yeah, exactly. I think Moses was walking the earth the last time the Leafs got into contention. So, but anyways.
Hello, I'm sitting right here. I happen to be from Buffalo.
All right. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so we're hoping our Sabres can win a couple games.
Well, thank you for Ryan Miller.
Yeah, you're welcome. Shut up, Jessica.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about the tournament, and of course, as I mentioned, Brooke Henderson, of course, another fellow Canadian. Let me just start off with the first question. Actually, was going to be my second question, but since I brought the Canadian end of it, let me bring this up. Why do you think so many of the Canadian girls here lately seem to be really doing well on tour? Just a lot of you seem to be really up in the leaderboard all the time, and ultimately, of course, won this past tournament.
It's actually really cool to see, just because a lot of these girls. They're girls that I grew up playing with nationally in Canada, Canadian Junior, Canadian Amateur, or other girls from BC. And I think just between each other, we've pushed each other. And the girls in Ontario, the girls in Quebec, everywhere, we've all pushed each other to become better. And I really think that even for the guys, our best players are all up and coming. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see where we can take Canadian golf in the next decade.
Can I ask you why you think that is? Is it because of the junior team? Is it because of Henry Brunton? Is it why is this happening?
You know, I think that the program has been great for a lot of people, and I think just golf is being played a lot more in Canada now than I think ever before, and we have a lot of people that are very competitive. And I mean, it's one of those things that when you have a program that helps you along the way, and when you have other players that you see them do well and you want to one-up them, it just makes you better. So it's really a matter of people pushing themselves as well as having a good support system. Yeah,
and that's so true. And you're right. I think here in the last several years, I think with the junior programs that have come into Canada, I just think that we're starting to see a real surgence, if you will, of great Canadian golfers, and I hope it continues. For a long time, we had the odd Canadian sort of come up on, of course, Mike Weir on the men's tour came up for a little while on that, but there really hasn't been a lot of strong Canadian players for a long time, and now all of a sudden, especially in the ladies, it's just boom. I mean, you're out there, and it's great to see, and I hope you gals continue on. Tell us a little bit about the tournament. How did you play, and what was kind of your strategy going into the event?
Well, this past week, I love the city of South Bend. I love this tournament. The golf course is great. The people are great. Where I get to stay for the week, I love being where I am, and I think that the course sets up well for me, and I just played the type of game where I minimized my mistakes and hit it in the right spots and was able to capitalize on shots that I hit well and was able to get myself out of any iffy situations for the most part that I got myself into.
Now, were you leading at all at any point through the tournament, or were you pretty much just sort of hovering around the leaderboard for most of it?
I was never leading at the end of a round, but I know in that final round I birdied 3 out of my first 4 holes to get it to 8, and
Wow.
I don't know where that put me at the time because the leaders were through 2, so I don't know. I think I was either tied or within 1 at some point in that round.
That's fantastic. Now, Cindy, I know that, as you may be aware, Jessica Cindy's played a number of LPGA events as well as now she contends on the Legends Tour as well with some great ladies. And Cindy, I know that you are a big proponent of the mental side of the game as well as the physical. And, just maybe talk a little bit about, Cindy, if you would, what it is that you really try to focus on when you're out there.
I try to focus on one shot at a time. What specifically? I played yesterday in a tournament. I did win. It was a small pro-am. I shot 74, but I haven't played 18 holes and kept score in about 6 months, so I was okay with that. But I'm always working on something. So my question to you, Jessica, is what are you currently working on?
Well, for me right now, I know that there are things in my swing that still need work, and I'm not trying to do an overhaul of any kind because, you're mid-season. So for me, I just get the club caught behind me on my downswing. So any type of mental thought that I could have to keep the club out in front of me coming down, that's usually the extent of that one swing thought that I have during a tournament to try and do. So that's kind of what I've been working on most recently with my swing.
What about the mental side? Anything in particular that you're working on?
I'm not sure if it's really working on it, but it's kind of how I've adapted myself since I've turned pro and kind of learned the ropes of it is I have become a lot more even keel and level-headed out there than I first was when I came out. And I take it a shot at a time, and I also like to do 3-hole increments. So, you have a little competition, and you're like, okay, let's see how well I can play on these 3, the next 3, the next 3. So instead of one 18-hole day, I'm playing 6 3-hole matches with myself.
Wow.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah, that's very different. Just keeping on the mental theme here for just a second, do you find, what percentage do you think in your golf game do you work on each of the components? Like, for instance, your short game, how much time do you spend on that? How much time do you spend on your long game? And then what mentally would you say do you try to get yourself psychologically prepared when you're going into a tournament?
For me, I'd say it depends really how my game is feeling to see how much time I allocate to each one. Generally, I like to work on my chipping and my pitches a lot. I feel like with my putting, sometimes, especially when I get into a rut with my putting, the harder I work at it and the more I grind over a putt, the less successful I can become. So I try not to stress out too much about my putting, and I try and get the feel of the greens through my chipping and my wedge work. And then with my ball striking, it's just really working on each swing thought that I have. I have tendencies with my swing just like anyone else, and when I go out on the range, I just try and make it a purposeful practice.
Yeah, that's go ahead.
Do you happen to know if you're audio, visual, or kinesthetic?
I've generally been told that I'm a kinesthetic type of person, but it's one of those things where I guess I'm open to trying each one, but I prefer kinesthetic is what I've been told years ago.
Well, if you want to find out, I have an assessment, so send me an email, and you can find out all by yourself whether you're audio, visual, or kinesthetic. It's Cindy at cindymillergolf.com. Send me an email, and I'll send it to you. But if you know, then you will find right brain swing cues that will work better for you rather than left brain thoughts. So what I hear you saying, which is true, is we can't play golf left-brained. We have to play golf right-brained, but your left brain has to know, how far is this putt, how much is it going to break, and then you have to shift states and go back to your right brain just to feel it and see it and do it. Like
right.
you said, I can't grind over putts or I'm going to choke my guts out, and that's absolutely the truth. So if you know whether you're audio, visual, or kinesthetic, then you can tap into, okay, I need to feel this. I can feel it in my hands. My hands are nice and light. Or if I'm auditory, I might go da-dum, da-dum. Or if I'm visual, I might need to see something, So if you're interested in finding out, let me know, because that would be cool to see if it works, for you, and if it helps you be left brain so you can win next week.
I would love to be able to do that. I will send you that email. Thank you.
Cool.
Jessica, let me ask you something that you said that was kind of interesting, and I want to sort of relay this into some of the amateur golfers that might be tuning into the program. You indicated that you tend to like to practice your chips and pitch shots and things like that. Most amateurs tend to do the opposite, don't they? They tend to, when they're in their practice mode, they're not spending as much time as they should on the pitching and chipping and so forth, even putting, as they are working on how well they're hitting it down the range and with their driver or whatnot. But one of the problems I think that they don't realize is that even if you hit a bad shot off the tee, if you have a tight short game, you're able to recover. Whereas if you have a terrible short game, then you're not going to be recover. Do you think that more amateurs need to sort of flip it around and do as you're doing and focus more on some of those areas that you're focusing on? And if so, would they see a vast improvement?
I think that I definitely see a lot of amateurs working out on the range and trying to figure things out with their swing, and I think a lot of it there is overcomplicating what they're doing and trying to just make golf very hard on themselves. And I think almost any professional would agree with the fact that the biggest differences in our game is 100 yards and in, and that's where we see the biggest steps in our games, and you could definitely improve your game the easiest by working out the shots 100 yards in, because, if you can bail yourself out of trouble if you can't bring your A game on your ball striking, then your worst scores will improve, and you'll become a more consistent player. Yeah,
and that's what I was getting at, because I think a lot of, and you're right, I see this as well as a teacher, when I'm out on the range, and I see, these people just hitting ball after ball after ball, and you can just see the wheels are turning, and they don't understand why they're not, and, I'll watch them hit a bucket or even two in some cases of balls, and then they'll go over on the putting surface and maybe putt for, 5 minutes, and then they'll leave. In some cases, maybe they're going out to play in a round, and others it's just maybe their own little practice session. But then they wonder why their handicaps are not going down. And I think that's really a big problem still in this industry, is I think that for some reason, despite some great coaching out there like Cindy Miller and others, there are a lot of people out there that still are not receiving that message that it's not all about how far you hit the ball out with your driver or even some of your longer clubs. It's that 100 yards in. So how do we break through the wall, if you will, with some of these students and get them to understand that, look at what the pros, if you want to emulate what the pros are doing, that's what they're not doing. So how do we break through that wall?
It's really tough because especially just with modern technology and how you can view your swing on video and have it constantly analyzed and broken down, I understand the desire for a lot of people to just sit there looking at their swings. I think it's just a matter of, if they have younger kids, parents, or if you have a coaches, it's just trying to get people that they respect or have influence, try and get that message across. And maybe, if they ever go out to a LPGA event or a Symetra Tour event, web.com, PGA, any champions, legends, to be able to see those players in practice rounds and see what they do in those practice rounds rather than just the tournament. I think it's just really enlightening to see how people prepare for events. And so it's one of those things where they just have to see it and take it in for themselves. You can't just force them to do it,
Yeah, well, no, and that's true. And Cindy, I know that you see this from time to time. I mean, Cindy works with a lot of great students, and I know has a great program in place. She's talked about it a number of times here on the show. But there's still those beasts, if you will, that come out and they want to work with you, and they just don't get it. And you try to explain to them that a new driver or spending an hour out on the range is not necessarily going to. Now, certainly sometimes that might be necessary if there's certain issues to be worked out, but more often than not, I would rather guide them into more of a short game school, if you will, for lack of better words, and get them working on some of those because, as I said a few moments ago, if you happen to hit an errant tee shot, but if you've got a good recovery program in place with your short game, you can pretty much recover from most errant tee shots, whereas if you don't, even if you hit it down the middle of the fairway, if you can't hit your wedge and land it on the green and have it stay on the green, it's not going to do you much good, whether you hit it 250 or 350 yards. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's funny. I was with Cheyenne Woods last Monday at a Pro-Am event, and she had shot 63 at the first round of the Canadian Tour event, Manulife Classic in Hamilton, was it? Or Oakville? I'm not sure, but it was near Toronto. And
yes, Oakville.
I said to her, how many fairways did you hit? She hit 14 out of 14 fairways. How many greens did you hit? She hit 16 out of 18 greens. And how many putts did you have? 26. So she almost hit it ball striking perfect. She did make one bogey to shoot when she shot 63. And so yesterday I hit 15 greens and shot 74. So there you go. That's 11 shots higher. And I didn't count my putts, but it's probably 11 putts higher. No, I don't think it was 37. It was probably 33 or 34. You have to average under 30 putts if you want to play well on the LPGA or the PGA Tour. I'm married to a man who played on the PGA Tour for 15 years, who was in the top 25, 30 of fairways hit and greens hit in regulation, but he was 99th on the putting list.
Yeah.
So there you go. I mean, you have to make more putts. And, needless to say, we witnessed that Sunday afternoon real late with Dustin.
Yeah, exactly. Jessica, did you watch? I mean, obviously I know you were playing, but did you sort of follow what was going on the men's side of things with the U.S. Open this weekend?
Oh, absolutely. The beauty of being on Eastern time zone was I could finish my round before the leaders teed off.
What did you think of the event itself? What did you think of the venue, and what did you think of what happened, what unfolded on Sunday?
I think it was a really cool course to see, and I mean, obviously the greens are what they are. I wasn't there. I didn't putt on them. You could see the ball kind of roll interestingly at times, yes, but honestly, if you look at the leaderboard, there were great players up there, so it brought out the top quality players, and you just didn't want to see it end like that. I mean, it would have been a playoff.
Yeah, exactly. And Cindy and I talked a little bit about that at the beginning about some of the challenges at the course, and it was interesting. I mean, I don't want to put it down. I mean, it was a very interesting. It was aesthetically an interesting looking course, but I just found one of the things that I found, and maybe it's because I'm getting old or something, but I found it very difficult sometimes when, and it could be maybe just the camera angles or something, but when some of the approach shots would hit the green, I had a tough time tracking where the ball was on some of them, not all of them, but some of the holes, just because of the discoloration of the greens. The white ball just sort of blended in on some of them a little bit, and I found it difficult until they kind of really settled down and then sort of zoomed in on it a bit. But that could be just my eyesight. Who knows? What's the?
I think you know what I think that was. I think that was a matter of having the cameras be able to be in the position to do ball follows.
Yes.
Because I have a daughter and son-in-law who work at the Golf Channel, and I think that I don't believe they were able to put cameras in places that were able to do ball follows, and I believe it was the ground as well.
Yeah.
And it could possibly be Fox not knowing how to do great ball follows, because it was really like dead space on the telecast. We're like, okay, where's the ball? And I don't think they knew most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, I found on some of the holes, you know, as the announcers were talking and you know, mentioning what was happening as the ball hit the green, and I'm looking around, and it was very difficult at times on some of the holes, and I'm sure you're right, Cindy. I'm sure that it probably was just not having some cameras in the right, being able to put them in the right place. But Jessica, what did you think of what do you think of young Jordan Spieth? I mean, is this guy not phenomenal and you know, just an incredible player?
Oh, you can't argue with the talent he has, and he is honestly just inspiring so many players in the world right now, just because, you know, he was our age, you know, and younger than I was when I was a senior when he was a freshman in college, and you knew he was a talented player, and to see him be able to take that next step onto the PGA Tour and play the way he's played, he's an incredible player, and it's going to be awesome to watch what happens between him and Rory and all the other talented young guns out there. It's going to be awesome to watch golf in the next few years.
Yeah, he really impresses me for a lot of reasons, and again, you know, Cindy, we've talked a little bit about him in the past as well, especially after he won the Masters. I think that really what impresses me the most about him is, and Cindy, I know you said that, you know, and I certainly did as well, you know, you could see on especially on Sunday, you could see a little bit of nervousness in him, which is a good thing, really. But he just has a lot of maturity for somebody his age. That's a rarity. There's been so many of these other young guns, Jessica, as you had mentioned, that are out there, and we've seen them, and he just, you know, if he hits a bad shot, you don't see a lot, you know, you don't see, you know, whipping clubs, you don't see a lot of anger come out of him. He's just very composed. He might be nervous at times, which is understandable, but very composed, and I think we're going to see some really great things come out of this young man in the next couple of years. And, you know, he's halfway to the Grand Slam, so we'll see what happens. Now, Jessica, what's coming up next for you now?
I'm going to be driving up to Harris, Michigan today. It's about 6.5 hours from South Bend up in the Upper Peninsula, so it's a great golf course. Unfortunately, I didn't play this event in South Bend or the one up in Harris last year because it conflicted with the U.S. Open last year. So I'm really excited because I loved this course this past week, and I love the course up in Harris as well. So I'm really excited to get up there. And
what are you going to work on once you get up there? What's going to be your focus? You've actually had a great tournament this past tournament, you know, tied for second and had a strong finish in that. So is this going to give you a little bit of momentum going and saying, okay, I was right up there, I'm this close. What are your thoughts going to be going into this event?
Obviously, having a great result this past week helps out, feeling confident, feeling good about where my game is. Going to just go up there and do my typical type of warm-up prep for the week. I'll be spending most of my time around the greens. That course kind of plays more like a linksy style course, so it'll be more of a controlled trajectory, working on just keeping the ball under control and under the wind. So it'll be interesting to see how that course plays this week, but I'll definitely be probably hitting a few chips out there later this evening.
And it's very good. Best and worst part of your game?
Well, depends on the week, I guess. This year, my short game's improved tenfold. Feeling really good with my putter. I was leg putting the ball really well this past week. Ball striking, actually, I don't feel that it's at my best right now, but I'm playing it, and it is working out pretty well, so I'm not going to complain.
Very good. Well, Jessica, it's been great chatting with you, and we want to thank you and wish you much luck this week. And did you get a chance, you and Brooke, to party a little bit when she won last week? Did you guys get together, being fellow Canadians?
I did not. I saw her though. I saw her that day though, and told her good luck, and saw that she had finished well. And she's a great player, and I've known her since she was, 8 years old and wasn't even playing golf. She was just showing up at Canadian Junior to support Brittany, and so it's really cool to see how far she's come. And she's a great kid. So obviously, I'm glad she played well, and she'll be up in Harris too. So hopefully, we'll get another good event going for the Canadians and see who comes out on top.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, listen, have a great tournament, and we know you got a bit of a drive ahead of you, so safe on the road. But thank you, Jessica, for coming on the Women of Golf show. Cindy and I appreciate you spending some time with us, and we'd certainly love to have you come back.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. I had a great time talking with you guys.
Thank you. Good luck this week.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Jessica. All right. Bye-bye. Great young lady. A lot of great young ladies on the Symetra tour. Just very well composed, very very confident and sure of themselves, and just really seem to have. I don't want to say their head on straight, but just really seem to have good focus on the task at hand. Cindy, I'm looking here, and I'm not sure if Jack is. Has got the time mixed up here and that. So let's just talk.
He sent me a text and asked me. It's asking for 4 digits for him to log in.
Oh, he must have called the wrong number then.
All right, I'll send him the right number.
Yeah, he must have gotten the number confused or something. Yeah, it's 347-945-5855. Do that, and it shouldn't be asking him for anything. He must have hit the wrong thing or something, got into a different number. But anyways, while you're doing that, and we're waiting for Jack to come on board, tell us a little bit about this tournament that you played in. I know you won, but where was it?
It was at Chautauqua Golf Club, which is across the street from the Chautauqua Institute, which is I want to say about 100 years old. The Chautauqua Institute is on Lake Chautauqua, or Chautauqua Lake, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It's almost like a small little tiny community where they have lectures and concerts and symphonies and artists and all this stuff. And there's a gate surrounding the whole institute. The Beach Boys come. It's just really, really cool. And people, they have a season, and it typically runs from the third week of June through Labor Day, and people come from all over. I played with a woman yesterday from Texas who is probably 72-ish, and her grandfather had a cottage at Chautauqua Institute, so she comes every summer. So it's really just a real special place. And every year they have this Pro-Am, and they have a men's division and a women's division, and I play in the women's division. And you play with 4 or 5 women amateurs. Yesterday I played with 4. We had a great time. We finished second in the Pro-Am, and I happened to win the Pro division. So it's fun. It's a day off. You don't make a lot of money, but the charity is the Watershed Conservatory. Mm-hmm. And it's just a nice day. They have a great lunch and dinner, and it's just fun to play in. And it's nice to work on your game. I'm working on staying still and staying in the present moment, and it's an opportunity to practice.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, you really hadn't had a chance to play here in the last few months, so it's a good way to brush up on your skills, and at the same time, play for a worthy cause, a great charity, and always fun to do that and give back. You've obviously gotten so much from this game yourself, and it's always nice to be able to do something, give back, and be able to play with some other great partners out there, and just have a lot of fun. So, job well done, Cindy Miller.
Well, thank you, dear. Thank you. There's more to work on, and you know what? Yeah. I need to work on 100 yards and in.
Yeah. Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
All right. I see Jack is on board, so let me just do a quick introduction here.
Jim.
I'm sorry, Jim. I don't know why I called Jack. Jim, I'm sorry. Jim Hackenberg is going to be joining us here in just a second. He's a PGA pro as well as the owner and developer of the Orange Whip products and Jimmy Hack Golf LLC. And I was going to read out, but since we're running a few minutes behind, I'll let him tell a little bit about his background and so forth when he comes on the show. Let's welcome Jim Hackenberg.
Thank you very much. Good morning to you.
Good morning. My apologies. I was looking at your last name, and for some reason, when I saw the Hackenberg, and I came up with Jack, so I apologize, Jim. Glad you were able to join us. Jim, why don't you just take a few moments and just tell us a little bit about how you got into golf and sort of how you came up with the products that you have now in Orange Whip.
You bet. I was a young man. My goal was to play the PGA Tour, and I was pursuing that goal through a lot of hard work, working on my game, and just developing my skills. And I got close, on the mini tours, playing pretty well on the mini tours. But you know what? I wasn't able to crack onto the tour, and I decided, I got to pay for my livelihood. I've got to live here. So I started teaching golf, and actually really enjoyed teaching golf. It's fun to watch a player improve and see them, gain some confidence in their own game. The dilemma was they just weren't improving as fast as they would like to see or as I would hope that they would improve. So what I had the unique opportunity to do was I had the chance to caddy for a good friend of mine who made it to the PGA Tour. And by spending some time out on the tour, watching him and watching all the other players out on the PGA Tour, I started to see something. I started to see that the golf swing really wasn't a complicated series of pieces that you put together. It was one fluid motion. And if you could develop this fluid motion, then you could develop an athletic swing. So I developed this concept that the golf swing was really, instead of a club head being put into positions, it was basically a weighted ball on the end of a chain. And if you could swing that weighted ball on the end of a chain, your hands, your body, your footwork would all learn to flow together. And when they learn to flow together, it looks athletic like all the tour players we see. So that was the genesis of the idea, was this concept. And it took me many years in a garage to produce my first prototype of an Orange Whip.
Yeah, and it's interesting, too. I have not, I'll be honest, I have not personally used it myself, but I have seen it and certainly familiar with the product. I've seen it down at the PGA show before. And around different areas, but definitely an interesting product, and I'm certainly going to get out there and get one myself. I think it's certainly something that will help anybody's game. But how did you come up with the concept, and what are some of the key concepts behind the Orange Whip trainer?
You bet. When swinging something, you have to have good rhythm. So let's think about fly fishing for a moment. The fly fishing rod's very flexible, and you've got to find a rhythm to it to get the fly to move the way you want it, to control it. Well, the golf swing's not far from that. If you can find that rhythm to your golf swing, you've just made it an easier process. Now, most golfers that I was teaching weren't very good, and they would hang on much too tightly, and they would try to hit the ball. Just smack down on it, and they never gained much power, and their accuracy was terrible because they would slice most shots. So I needed a way for them to feel this motion. So I took basically a fishing rod and I put some heavy washers on one end of it, and I started swinging this back and forth, and it really was a neat feeling. So I brought it to my lesson tee and I started showing it, and I would have them start off the lesson swinging this, and it was really quite incredible to see how quickly they would change their from tension into relaxed rhythm. And I just kind of kept improving it over the years. I put a ball on the end of it rather than these washers. And then I counterbalanced it on the other end of the grip. And the counterbalance encourages the wrist to hinge and unhinge naturally, so it becomes a very free, athletic, swinging motion. But that wrist hinge is what's creating the power. So the counterbalance is really when it all came together. And when I put that on there and showed it to my students, that's when they all started saying, "Hey, Jimmy, can I buy this thing from you? I love the feel of this." And that's when the light bulb went off, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to start a business." So I moved to South Carolina and started building Orange Whips in the garage and started selling them. And now we're 7 years down the road and really grown and increased, and we're in a 6,000-square-foot warehouse making Orange Whips in East South Carolina, and all the parts are here, handmade here in America. So it's really grown from a garage start to a nice business.
That's awesome. And I got to tell you that one of the beautiful things about this, Ted, we were discussing with Jessica about how to shift from left brain to right brain.
Yep.
And you really don't have to talk. When you put an orange whip in your hand and you start swinging, it tells you what you're supposed to be doing all by itself. So no more discussion. It's just perfect for the tempo and the timing. And for those who get quick from the top, the ball will start flipping around everywhere, and definitely it's not as fluid motion as you want. And the other cool part is he's come up with a putter, an orange whip putter, which I was able to purchase at the KPMG. And the tempo, timing, and the roll and bulge, if you will, on the face, if you don't hit the ball square in the center of the face, it will not go straight. So, Jimmy, keep doing what you're doing because it really, really helps people. I was practicing with it last week, and I may not have putted great yesterday, but I putted well enough to win by one. So, thank you.
Nice. You bet. But you're right. I mean, it's a feeling that people are instinctive. Once they feel something, that's when the light bulb goes off and they feel comfortable with it. I like to say it makes people feel like what Ernie Els looks like. And that's the best part about it. And also, I mean, probably, though, my favorite golf swing in the world, and I wish she was still playing, is Annika Sorenstam. I mean, her rhythm, her balance, her motion was so simple, but it was so much like what I was conveying with this ball and chain idea of swinging back and forth. That's why she hit so many fairways. That's why she was so consistent. I wish Tiger Woods would have learned from Annika because I think his game would be a lot better had he known what she knows.
Right, exactly. And it brings up an interesting point. You know, you mentioned Ernie Els and Annika and that. What's interesting about both of them, particularly probably more so Ernie, because his looks, it looks like he's swinging almost in slow motion. It's just very fluid, very methodical in that, but it's not sort of compared to say something like a Nick Price, which looks to be very jerky. What's interesting though is they've had, of course, Ernie, as many of the pros have been on these different monitors and so forth, and his swing speed is actually very fast. He's able to get a tremendous club head speed, despite looking like he's swinging, a piece of rope. And same thing with Freddie Couples. I mean, they're very, very fluid, very slow looking to the eye, but yet they're able to generate a lot of club head speed. Why is that, do you think, compared to some of these other golfers that you see out there, and especially the amateurs, and they're just, trying with like a Herculean task, trying to just muscle the ball? Why is somebody like an Ernie Els able to generate so much club head speed with so little effort?
That's a great question, and the answer is the poorer golfer will just use their hands and arms and upper body strength to try to generate speed, but they lose the lower body and they lose the torso rotation because they're too tense to make a nice fluid full body motion. Whereas Ernie, his arms are traveling basically at the same speed as his body, but his body is rotating. And when you make that big rotation back and through, and your arms are traveling with it, and your hands, actually more specifically your wrists, are very relaxed, they can hinge and load up and then unload all that power through the golf ball. But it can't happen with tension. So Ernie is relaxed and he's making a big turn, similar to a pitcher in baseball. If the pitcher didn't turn his back to the batter and then turn back to him, he wouldn't have much rotary speed. And you can't get speed in a rotary motion sport without turning. So the orange whip develops comfort in rotating and turning, but also coordinating the arms and body to work together so that they're very supple and relaxed muscles that can unload all this power. But like any athletic motion, it takes a little bit of practice. So the orange whip is nice because you use it 2 or 3 minutes in the morning, 2 or 3 minutes at night, and you've got a nice workout, a nice stretch, and your body is used to that motion. And if you're not doing it every day, it's hard to be like a tour player.
Yeah. Jim, if you had, and I'm sure you've had this opportunity many, many times, but if you were walking up to any practice facility range here in the United States, and you weren't necessarily doing a lesson or anything, but you happen to have an orange whip on you, and you saw somebody on the range that maybe just had, as we've all seen, this sort of chopping motion, that what would you, and you wanted to let them try this, what would you say to them first off, and how would you help them to be able to use this product and maybe be a little more fluid in their swing?
Well, that's a wonderful question, because that's what we're working towards doing for everyone. Because I guess what I would number one say to pique their interest is I would ask them if they would like to hit it farther and straighter, and almost everyone would say yes. And then they would ask, well, how do I do that? I would say, well, let's step away from these golf balls for a few minutes, and let's just go back here and let's learn to swing this orange whip. And I have a set of drills that I do that you can see at my website at orangewhiptrainer.com. And these drills are simple exercises that you use the orange whip to function with. And when you use them, what they're doing is they're loosening up your body. They're creating a way for it to flow together. But really what's happening is this person's swinging it back and forth, and immediately they're feeling the swinging motion, and they're realizing that if they're tense, forcing it, it's going to be awkward, and it's going to throw them right off their balance. And once you're off your balance, it's lost. So I would spend 5 or 10 minutes with them away from the range balls, swinging an orange whip, help them find their rhythm, and then say, okay, now let's put a golf club back in your hands. Let's swing this back and forth in a rhythm until we find a nice balance. And then let's go to the golf balls again, and let's just hit a few shots. But I want you to pretend you're swinging an orange whip and not hitting a golf ball. And if I can maintain that mentality, they always improve, because now they're swinging freely, they're letting the club do what it's designed to do, and they are just trusting this motion. So that's how I would do it. I would introduce it as, hey, we want to improve your motion and your balance. Everything else will improve if you could accomplish that.
Yeah, and that's so true. A lot of people, we've heard over the years, they'll want to emulate a swing that they see on tour, whether it be an Ernie Els or, as I said, a Freddie Couples or somebody else, an Annika, and they'll try to emulate that. But it may not necessarily be the best route to go, because, as an example, everybody has a different rhythm and a different tempo. So if you're somebody that's like maybe has a similar tempo to somebody, and I'm using him because he's probably the most obvious example, but say a Nick Price, who has a very quick tempo. If you're somebody that's more like an Ernie Els type tempo, you don't want to emulate somebody like Nick Price or vice versa. So obviously your product is able to help an individual find their tempo, correct?
That is correct. And that's why we have 3 different sizes of the orange whip. If a person wants to be more like an Ernie Els, I would encourage them to use the longest version, because it will almost feel like it's slowing you down, but what it's really doing is it's helping you gather all that momentum and then unload that momentum. But let's say you are a fast-paced person and you have a Nick Price-style swing. I encourage using the mid-size orange whip. It's shorter, it's got a more flexible shaft because it is a little shorter, and it's easier to make that faster transition. So we have a different orange whip, not just for different paces of golf swing, but also different sized people. We're all built a little differently, and we all have certain limitations potentially. So the orange whips, the multiple sizes we have, accommodate all shapes, sizes, and speeds of golfer.
Is there anything in using the product that you would caution people? Like, for instance, a lot of times when you have training devices that involve swinging that, some people, and is there a proper way to do it? And obviously I know your videos will show that. And is there things that you have to be careful, because you are swinging a weighted product? Is there something that you need to be careful about that you're not, in order to to do it properly?
Yeah, the number one thing is just to start out slowly and smoothly. And you know what? That's good advice for any golfer. But some people, I will demonstrate the orange whip to them, and I will describe that I want you to start slow and build up this pendulum motion and gradually let your body stretch out. And then I'll hand them the orange whip, and they'll immediately go to a really fast, quick golf swing that wasn't a built-up version. So that's about my only concern, is I want to make sure you start slow and allow your body to adapt, because there is some weight there, but it's also very flexible, so it's low impact. So there's some give to it. But you really want to build up into it. But you know what? I think it's something. If you're loose and you're strong, you can swing this device quite a bit, and it ends up being a wonderful stretch and a wonderful workout. So, I've had many people who use it as a cardio workout. Some use it as just a way to loosen their body before they play golf. My best advice is start slow and build up. You can gain speed in due time.
Yeah. Now, Cindy, you mentioned a few moments ago that you have the putter, correct?
Yeah, it's really cool. I got a 33-incher at KPMG. Jimmy was there on the range helping all the tour players, and it's real big, and it's beveled, kind of like the old drivers used to be, and maybe they still are, I don't even know. But if you don't hit it in the center of the ball, it won't roll straight, and it's very flexible, so it helps your pace and your timing. And you know what? The beautiful thing about what Jimmy makes with the Orange Whip trainers is, like I said, it goes from left brain to right brain. It's like, just don't even talk, don't think, just shut up and swing this. And so it's a visual, it's an auditory, and it's a kinesthetic all in one. So it's like dumbed down, and it's absolutely amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, the putter is unique because it's obviously got the Orange Whip shaft in it, which is the flex, but as Cindy was talking about, it has a round face. It actually has a 12-inch radius on that face. So if I expanded the putter face out, it would be a 2-foot ball. And so it's basically one ball hitting another ball. So think of Newton's cradle, that thing that's on a businessman's desk with those steel balls that swing back and forth and bang into each other. I've got it so that putter face, I have it so the equator of the putter face hits the equator of the golf ball. If you make a nice stroke and hit it dead in the center, the ball's going to roll toward your target, or actually toward the momentum of the putter head you are swinging. So it becomes like playing pool. The putter head becomes like your cue ball, and your golf ball becomes your impact ball. As long as you're swinging down the line you want to go and you hit dead in the center, it's going to roll that way. But if you miss it, it will immediately let you know, and it exaggerates a miss, but it also, on the positive, when you hit in the center, it's rolling exactly where you want. So it gives you a good sensation of what putting is, which is rhythm and center contact.
Well, and obviously it sounds like you get some great feedback, which is something that, obviously you want as a player, whether you're a top player or an amateur. If you're not getting feedback from a product, then it really doesn't do you a lot of good. So feedback is important, and I like that. And Jim, you might want to get a check out to Cindy for that great endorsement she just gave your product.
Exactly right.
That was fantastic. I think you might have a great endorsement there. But and now you have some other products as well, correct? Besides the Orange Whip and the putter, what else do you have?
We have a device called the Orange Peel, and the Orange Peel is a balance platform. But let me quickly tell you about how that came to be. I still like to compete. I still play in our state opens and our PGA section championships, and I want to still play some good golf. Well, my dilemma was I was tending to slide laterally into the ball, and I was trying to find a way to be able to rotate better and not slide as much. And I was looking at a picture by Leonardo da Vinci called Vitruvian Man, and it's a picture of a guy basically in a circle with his arms out and his feet out, and it's almost every doctor in the world uses this logo as their logo. But it's basically, in that picture, he's standing at the bottom of a 9-foot sphere. And if I thought, and I looked at that picture, I go, if I could swing a golf club from within a sphere or a bubble, I would be able to rotate without having to slide laterally because my feet would be positioned at such an angle that it would keep me centered. So I built a platform with a concave surface that when you stand in it, you feel like you're standing at the bottom of a bubble. And when you swing within it, it's more apt to make you turn rotary rather than laterally, and it makes the usage of the ground forces even ever increasing. So it's really a great sensation to teach that central rotary motion.
Yeah, I saw it on the website. I didn't get a chance to really get into it, but it looked very interesting, and I can certainly see how that would be a great benefit, because a lot of people, I'm similar to you in the sense that I have that tendency as well. I'm 6'4", and most of my length is in my legs. So one of the demons, if you will, that I've fought over the years is getting too much lateral motion in my golf swing. So that sounds like it'd be a great device for great product rather for those that struggle with that, because that is a very common thing. especially for taller players and leggy players like me to get too much lateral motion.
Very much. And what else is fun about the orange peel is I can reposition my feet. Let's say I move to the left. Now my left foot got much higher than my right foot because I'm almost like climbing up the wall. And now I can have an uphill lie. I can move to the right, and I can create a downhill lie. I can move backward on the orange peel and create a ball below my feet side hill lie, and then forward I can do ball above my feet side hill lie. So in my garage, in my office, in my home, I can create any lie angle I will find out on the golf course, and I can work on making golf swings with either an orange whip or a golf club and finding balance on every uneven lie. Because as we all know, I mean, most average golfers, they practice on the range and only on the range. So when they get on the course and they have an uneven lie, their body doesn't know what to do. This allows them to sense that and improve that.
Yeah, and that is important. You know, and I'm a big proponent when I teach of putting my students in situations where they're not on a perfect lie. In fact, I do the opposite more often than not. I try to minimize the number of perfect lies because that's really true to playing golf on a course. You're not going to have very many opportunities in any golf course to be in an exactly perfect lie and a perfect balance every time. There's going to be undulations in the fairway. There's going to be situations on the green where you're not going to have that perfect lie all the time either. So, you want to sort of mix it up. So having a training device that can simulate that, I think is a great product to have.
Thank you. Yeah. No, it's been wonderful. We found, certainly I'd like it to be for all consumers, but the golf instructors have really gotten on board with this thing, and they love it. So it's been great with instructors.
Well, fantastic.
I have that one as well, and it's awesome. I have everything he makes.
Yeah, that's great.
So is there anything that you can disclose that's coming out that isn't out on the market? Is there anything that you're working on that you can tell us about, or is that sort of in the oven, so to speak?
Well, I've always struggled with the short game with chipping, and the funny thing about it is I don't practice what I preach in the full swing. I'm a big rhythm guy, balance, and I have a nice golf swing, and I hit the ball very well. But I get around the green, I get tense, and I get a little stabby. So I'm working on a version with a club head on it that I can hit chip shots and pitch shots because you need that rhythm there. You need that trust. And so that would be my next product, would be a device with a club head that we could hit bunker shots or short little wedge shots and find that rhythm, because you got to have the rhythm and you got to have the trust of the short game. Otherwise, it gets to be difficult.
Yeah, well said, and that's so true. And we talked about earlier with our first guest, Jessica Wallace, who's a young player on the Symetra tour, and we talked about really how so many of the amateurs out there sort of do the opposite to what the pros do. The pros tend to be focusing on that 100 yards in and don't spend as much time on the long game, if you will, or on at the range practicing some of the their drives and things like that the way the amateurs do. And we really need to find a way in order to help the amateurs focus on. So that would be an excellent product really to help do that. So I hope you get that into production soon and get that out in the market, because I think the handicaps, as we all know, have kind of stagnated for the amateurs for a long, long time, and they're really looking for a way to bring those down. And anything that we can do to help them do that, I'm all for it.
Yep, I agree.
Well, Jim, Cindy and I want to thank you very much. I allowed us to go a few minutes extra because I knew that unfortunately you had a little bit of a difficulty coming in on the call originally, but so we let it go a little bit past. But unfortunately, we have to let you go. But we really appreciate you coming on and sharing a little bit about your products. And for those, just very quickly before I let you go, for those that are interested in learning more about the product or purchasing the product, where do they need to go and how can they get their hands on one?
You bet. Visit orangewhiptrainer.com, and you just Google Orange Whip and you'd find it. But orangewhiptrainer.com is our website, and we have plenty of videos, plenty of writing to enhance what we're trying to convey. But yeah, and the best advice is if you see one, if someone you see at a golf course or a driving range has one, ask if you can try it. You'll immediately know what we're doing with it after just a few swings. So give it a swing. I think you'll love it.
Perfect. Fantastic. Jim, thank you very much for joining Cindy and I this morning on the Women of Golf Show. We appreciate that. We know that the audience will certainly gain some value, insight, and information from the discussion, and much continued success. And thank you for all the hard work that you do to help grow this game.
Thank
Thanks,
you. No, I
Jim.
appreciate it. Thanks, Cindy. It was great to see you again a couple of weeks ago at the KPMG.
I'll see you down the road.
Perfect. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very
you.
much, Jim. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. That was Jim Hackenberg from Orange Whip Trainer. And great products, Cindy. And I know, as you said, you've got a few of the products, and I'm sure you'll take a good look at anything else that comes out on the market through him. It sounds like an interesting product. I'm going to get out and get one myself. But on that note, we have to wrap up. We want to thank Cindy. I want to thank you for joining us this morning on the Women of Golf Show. We want to thank both of our guests, Jessica Wallace from the Symetra Tour and Jim Hackenberg from Jimmy Hack Golf and for the Orange Whip Trainer. Thank you very much for joining us each and every week here on the Women of Golf Show. We'll hope to see you next week, next Tuesday from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time here on blogtalkradio.com's Women of Golf. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week. God bless, and thank you, Cindy, as always, for being here with me right alongside.
Thanks, Ted. Have a great week.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.